Hey everybody, and thank you so much for joining us on this investor webinar. Today I've got the founder and Trisha as well, who's very involved in the business, but probably a founder is not the title. You know what, I'll let you both introduce yourselves and do that. So I'm here, so my name is Robin Holt and I'm representing Birchal here, and I'm the host for today's webinar, effectively running through the presentation that Laila and me have got, which will share some wonderful news about the business, what it's achieved, its upcoming mission and its upcoming capital raise. Then after that, we're going to open up it to a Q&A format, which really will be inviting every single person here to ask their questions about the business, and we will be answering them in as much detail as possible. We always get asked during these webinars if we are recording and if we can send around a recording afterwards. So I'd love to just cover off at the very beginning that we are recording today's session. So we will be sending around a recording to you afterwards. So I think now is probably a perfect time to hand it over to Mel and Trisha to introduce themselves quickly before we go through the presentation.
Hi everybody, thank you for taking your lunch break to join us. I'm Mel. I am the founder of Laila and Me and the managing director. And
I'm Trisha Ong. I am a consultant working with Mel for the past 18 months, and during that time we've experienced strong growth in the business, and we're looking to, hopefully with your help, join us for further growth.
Fantastic. Well, if you'd like to share your screen now, we'll go through that presentation.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, so we've just put together a presentation just to show a little bit of the backstory of Laila and Me. For those that don't know, we're an Australian pet treat company. We've been around since 2015, but currently we are looking at scaling and making another company, Rawvolution, that sits under with Laila and Me, and Rawvolution is a freeze-dried pet food company. So I'll take you through the presentation, and then if you've got any questions at the end, ask us. All right, so it all started with my own dog Laila and her health issues. I got Laila 9 years ago, little French bulldog, and is allergic to like everything. So we had to start a food elimination diet because she just had really bad skin allergies, and it was like really red, and it was just really uncomfortable for her. So I was a first-time pet parent. I still wanted to give her dog treats while she was on the food elimination diet. So off I went to the supermarket or the pet stores, and I would see packets on the shelf that said, "Hey, we're natural." And I would look at the packet because I had to read ingredients now. And I was absolutely horrified to see that the pet treats on the shelves like marketed as natural, but they had all these other ingredients with them. So it was chicken plus 17 other ingredients. It just really didn't need to be there. So I could still treat her with some dog treats because she was still training. I started making my own. So started dehydrating dog treats in my kitchen and feeding them to Laila. And yeah, I suppose then we moved onto my humble beginnings. So it was 2015. I was still working full time. I was baking Laila's dog treats. And then, yeah, I started like doing little market stalls and started an Instagram page and really built a community around other pet parents that were probably experiencing the same thing, because everyone was educating themselves on pet health and what was good alternatives to feed their dogs. So at that time I was doing little pop-up markets, building my Instagram. And then, yeah, it got to a point in about 2018 where I quit my full-time job and I really threw everything into this business. So I really had no idea about running my own e-commerce store. So I surrounded myself with my business coach, then Trisha, like digital marketing agencies, just everything that I could to like grow my business. And then 2020 happened. Two things happened. COVID happened. Everyone went into lockdown. And everyone got a dog. So I think that was just the perfect storm for me, because everyone was sitting at home and they were just loving on their pets more than ever. And they were online shopping, so they were buying dog treats. but also, again, probably educating themselves on what was healthy for their dogs. And because, you want your dogs to be around forever. They're like our companions. So we really experienced massive growth in 2020. We were up 224% in revenue. I applied for the Boosting Female Founders Grant through the Australian government and received it. So we could transition from white labeling treats from other manufacturers to then manufacturing our own treats. So that's when we fit out our Bendigo factory to freeze dry and dehydrate treats there. And this is what's led us here now, because we're hit a point where we're at capacity with our manufacturing capabilities. We want to launch our pet food, but we don't want to run into supply and demand issues. Like, the last thing we want to do is transition everyone over to Raw Evolution. They feed their dogs there, and then we can't sustain that. Yeah, so that's what's led us here to start crowdfunding. My love of dogs, my love of Laila, and just the longevity around pets and living like a healthy life, and that starts with their diet and what we feed them. So yeah, over to Trisha.
So I just wanted to introduce the team to everyone. So obviously we've met Mel now. She's the founder and managing director of Laila and me. So the company has been around since 2015, and in the last 2 years is where we experienced the biggest growth. So that's when we started to expand our human resources as well. So since then, we've opened a Thomastown facility, and out of this factory is where we do our distribution. So 3PL, pick, pack, dispatch, as well as hold inventory, stock, counting that stock, as well as all the management of that, receiving pallets, dispatching pallets to our overseas customers as well. So all of that falls under operations. And Jasmine Graydon, who's our operations manager, she looks after that area of business. Our other main area of business is marketing. As we are an e-commerce business, marketing is one of the most important things that we're doing at the moment, and obviously a significant amount of our monthly expenditure. So Candice looks after the marketing side, from things such as not only our organic social media side, but paid advertising as well, from Google advertising, Facebook advertising, which you might have seen some of that in recent weeks. In relation to Birchal, but as well as in more recent times, the PR side of the business as well. In addition to these three ladies, we also have a whole range of consultants that help in the business as well. So not only myself, who helps on the business growth side of things, operational efficiencies that I look after as well, but we have other people who look after, for example, we have a consulting engineer helping us out with the freeze drying technology side. We have a food safety consultant who helps out with our certification to make sure that we're compliant, has a certified Prime Safe license as well, which we'll go through in a little bit more detail. Our headcount at the moment is 10 employees, and that's across the Thomastown and Bendigo facility. So Bendigo is where we're manufacturing, and we're looking to grow that team. The business journey so far, so for the last 18 months, we've had very steep growth and expansion. So from our launch days, we've tried and tested the products. So 7,500 e-commerce customers is where we're at today. Now that doesn't include all the wholesalers and distribution and export. That's just customers who are buying directly from us. So with that tried and tested product of the freeze dried, the dehydrated range, and our bestseller, the Christmas advent calendars, we're able to reach 56% of repeat customers. So that tells us that our customers know, like, and trust our brand to be able to keep coming back for more. Now that we've tried and tested the product, we're now looking to grow the business. So international markets is one area, and that's we're currently doing China and New Zealand at the moment with exports, and we've just secured our first Taiwan export, and we're looking to go next year into more Southeast Asian markets, including Japan, South Korea, and Singapore. Collaboration with other similar brands. You might see on our social media that we like to collaborate with other brands to be able to grow our presence and lean on each other for support as well. Through innovation, that's our next step. So we're looking to continuously research and develop. not only our products but to grow our product range as well. So as an example, this would be our supplements range. So Mel went on a holiday earlier this year. She went to, business holiday to America, where she was able to see the market, the overseas market. And one of the largest trends in America is supplements for dogs. So what we did was we learned what we could from the market, looked at a business case in terms of being able to expand into a new product, worked with a consultant to be able to refine that product as well, to make sure that what we are doing is great and healthy for our pets and safe. And that's one of the new innovative products that we're doing. In addition to the Raw Evolution pet food, where we've got 2 recipes, also tried and tested as well. And these 2 recipes we've tried, what was it, Mel? We
did testing trials for our Raw Evolution pet food. So we freeze dried it, created it, sent it to 50 dogs and said, we want feedback. We want brutally honest feedback. Does your dog like it? Is the sizing too big? And based on that feedback, we tweaked it a little bit to just make the chunks a little bit smaller. But we overall got really, really positive feedback. And we can see on their Instagram, like there's an Instagram for Raw Evolution pet food, where everyone's like, when are you launching? Like, this is great. It's exactly what we've been looking for, because essentially it's a raw food. You're just adding water to it. So it's super convenient for raw feeders or anyone who wants anyone who wants to feed their dog a raw, healthy diet.
Yeah. So that's through our innovation. So we're looking to continuously improve and develop our products. And that's the next step of our journey. So our business successes to date. In the past financial year, we've reached $1 million in turnover, and that's on the back of the overwhelming demand that we have for people looking to feed their pets the absolute best. Very healthy, raw pet food that's very palatable for the dogs as well. So now that we've reached a 7-figure business and reaching year-on-year growth, we've resulted in $100,000 of profit last financial year, and more of the financial figures will be released as part of our offer document in the next week. So in addition to strong demand, we did open our Bendigo premises. Bendigo opened in 2021, and that was with the help of the federal government through the Boosting Female Founders grant that Mel received. And by bringing manufacturing in-house, we were able to obtain HACCP certification to ensure that our quality processes are all, in line. Our processes and procedures include things such as making sure all our products are batch tested, sending them through to a third party to ensure that we're checking for salmonella and other things. And if there are any issues, we have traceability to be able to trace all our products back as well. Prime Safe licensing, that is in relation to the meat governing body in Victoria, to ensure that what we're doing is all above board, to ensure that the treats that we give to our pets are not only human grade, but follow all the correct processes and procedures from start to end. And we need all of this in terms of exporting as well. And Bendigo, we're looking to grow that facility as well, not only in human resources, but in machinery and our output. Repeat customers is the next business success. So with many repeat customers, 7,500 customers Australia-wide at the moment. As I mentioned before, we're doing many more through our wholesale distribution and export. So our wholesale channels include things such as doggy daycare centres, other smaller independent pet stores. Our distribution network, we're looking to expand into more pet stores, as well as exporting to new countries as well, which is the next step of our growth. And in our future, we're looking to, increase our manufacturing capabilities. So we do have current constraints at the moment, as any small business would, in terms of having to reinvest every cent back into the business. We've been able to increase our inventory holds. We do analysis on our COGS. We do analysis on making sure that the products that we're selling, we're not holding too much inventory of particular products, and our fastest moving products, we're selling more, we're holding more stock of. So being able to increase our manufacturing capabilities to meet the demand is really important to us, as we're currently exceeding capacity. Expansion to overseas markets. The future, we're really looking to go into new markets. Southeast Asia is the top priority, but in future we're looking to go into more US states as well, including Oregon
and California.
Yeah. And lastly, the Raw Evolution pet food launch. So we've had the recipes for a couple of months now, where we've tried and tested them. We've refined them as well. And we're ready that when Raw Evolution does launch, we can, on the back of the current Laila and me customers, we're able to launch our pet food. And we're really hoping that that happens in the next couple of months, especially with the resource constraints. So over to Mel now for the awards and recognition that we've received so far.
We're like been super lucky to like start with the business boosting female founders grant in 2020. That was a huge push for us. We've also been the finalist for the Australian Small Business Champion Awards in 2020 and 2022, as well as the finalist in the Australian Small Business Women's Champion Awards for manufacturing in 2022. We were invited as a finalist for Global Victoria for the Governor's Export Awards a few months back. And some of our products featured in the Clean and Conscious Awards, like our salmon bellies, for example. And then like we've also had some great PR through like the Today Show and Time Out magazines for our doggy advent calendars. So really great for social proof there.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, so that's just a bit about us. And now I thought we'd open it up for questions. Over
to Robin.
Yeah, thanks.
Fantastic presentation. No, so good to hear a lot more about the business and also about the future and the kind of direction that you're going in. I love the research that you've done around that. So that's really good to hear. And for everybody here, please do use the Q&A feature and ask as many questions as possible. We really would love as many as possible so we can continue this conversation. The top question which I've got here is one saying, conscious that we may be entering a recession, global and or Australian, within the next 12 months. So are you planning to reserve some working capital to ensure the business is resilient in the event that a recession does occur and sales do decline while costs remain elevated with high inflation?
Yeah, so that's one thing that we are very aware of, the increased cost price. So as an example, one of our biggest risks at the moment is the increasing price of meat, in particular to beef, chicken, and
it was beef and chicken mainly. Because like true, when we started, we were paying a lot less, and it's probably increased about 30% in our raw materials.
And what we've done to combat things like that is, as an example, what we've done is we used to review COGS more on a 6 to 12 monthly basis. We're now reviewing it every 2 to 3 months now. And essentially every time that we get a new quote on our meat, if the price has increased, we'll review our COGS. And the reason for that is so that I guess we can make sure that we have enough margin to be able to cover. What we've actually done is discontinued particular products that had too low of a profit margin, and to be able to repump our advertising and marketing messages to ensure that we're pushing more products that have the higher profit margins as well.
But in like sort of saying that, we really braced ourselves with COVID because it was the unknown, and we're like, oh my God, what is going to happen here? And then it absolutely boomed. So we're also in a market where pets need to eat. So it is it's like not a nice to have, it's also a need to have. So I think that there's that.
Yeah, going from pet food, pet treats, which is a bit of a nice to have. And you know, when times are tough, you do cut back on the treats. But in going towards food, it's more of necessities.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really common theme at the moment with a lot of companies who are kind of saying this, and a lot of the same rhetoric around, well, we prepared for that at the beginning of COVID. And of course, there was a lot of stimulus checks floating around, and that really increased consumer spending and did increase that behavior. And that was great for the business. But I mean, even if you do look at some other conditions in the market at the moment, there are other factors such as high inflation, which can inherently, I mean, benefit your business if your costs are aligned with that. And of course, your costs have to align with how much your products are actually costing itself. So yeah, and of course, the pets still have to eat. They're very much so part of the family. Just another question which we've had here. So are you going to manufacture the freeze-dry food in-house? And how much is the equipment going to cost, and how much food can it make?
Okay, so we have a freeze dryer at the moment. We are planning on buying another freeze dryer. So like a typical kind of conversion is a ton of meat or product will go into the freeze dryer, and we get back about 25% return, like 250 kilos yield on that. So yes, we will be manufacturing everything in-house, and then currently we are doing that, but we are also sending our overflow to our contract manufacturers in Queensland. So
yeah, and in terms of what we intend to purchase, that does depend a little bit on the raise itself. So in terms of depending on how big we scale and how fast we scale as well, will be dependent on the amount we start to raise. So as part of the offer document that does get released, we will have to, like, I think if, sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, Robin, but one side of the table shows if we were to reach our minimum, these are the things that we would spend on. And if we were to reach our maximum, that's what we would spend on. So there will be
correct. Yeah, that's it. Absolutely right. And I think even in alignment with that, there's another question here, which is saying, with a raise such as this, all the funds raised will go into growth. So when do you plan to be profitable? I guess before I hand over to Mel and Tricia to answer this one, I'd like to say that there won't be sort of forecasted financials in the offer document itself. So it's not like you can kind of look at the financial statements and look at the P&L and see exactly when the company is going to be profitable. But of course, when a lot of companies are raising capital, they are focused on growth. So Mel and Tricia, you might be able to paint a little bit of a picture as to when you anticipate the company to be profitable. So I'll let you kind of answer that one.
Well, the great thing is we are already profitable. So last financial year we closed at it was 100,000, 100,000 profit. However, in the next couple of years we are looking at growth as well. And obviously things will change, but we're forecasting to continuously grow. The last year was 228%.
Okay, got it. Fantastic. And Andrew here has asked, how big is the market that you're targeting? Australia, overseas, Southeast Asia, and USA?
Yeah, so that currently in Australia, there's for dogs and cats, there is 10 million dogs and cats in Australia. So the overall pet industry in Australia is 14 billion, and it increased, like, I think from 2018, it was about 9. Again, I think everyone grew together with COVID and getting a dog. It is quite a growth industry to be in. And our market share we calculated was 0.03%. So we have a long way to go before we are dominating the market. However, like, it gives us fantastic opportunities to be able to increase that percentage from starting at such a low base at the moment, 0.03. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Got it. So it answered the next question as well there. So Benjamin just saying, I joined late and you may have covered, but keen to know more about you bringing production in-house. Are those operations scalable for larger markets? Will you remain made in Oz and only need distribution lines? Great.
So that's a really good question. Obviously, the larger you go, the I guess lower your profit margins are. When you sell B2C, profit margins are a lot healthier than when you sell B2B. Obviously, because everyone takes a slice of the pie along the way. So we will have to balance that. At the moment, we are B2C customers are 70%? 70% of B2C customers at the moment, with 30% making up of things such as exposed distribution, export, and wholesale. So with that, we are looking to keep those percentages relatively stable, because it's the B2C customers that are allowing us to reinvest the money back into growth. So with the numbers increasing, the percentages will, at the beginning, I would say in the next year or two, stay relatively stable in percentage wise, but the growth will hopefully occur.
Yeah, fantastic. And Michael, here, really relevant point you've made. The business's name is more of a personal note than a generic broader market. Will the business name remain as is, or do you change it for a goal?
Yeah, to be honest, when I started this, it was just my pure love for my dog and Laila and me and just selling treats to my friends, and then kind of absolutely scaled. So while I'm like aware of that, there won't be any plans to change Laila and me, because I've built it up as a community, and I've got such a strong community around me that, I think that like I would probably piss off a lot of my 7,500 return customer rates that are really community driven and have been along for the journey.
However, to counter that, what we've done is create Rawvolution.
Yeah.
So Rawvolution is more of your the brand, because it's more of the necessity rather than the treats.
Rather than the cutesy treats, it's the grown up. Pet food,
grown up
Rawvolution. Yeah.
So Rawvolution was to be able to combat that. And when we created a PTY Ltd, we now trade as Freeze Drying Manufacturing Australia, which I guess is our more grown up name. But the logo we've tweaked as well. Recently, there's been a change to our logo from including a cupcake to taking the cupcake away. Little things like that we're looking to do to improve our branding and corporate identity. But at the same time, we will be retaining the Laila and me name.
Yeah, fantastic. A great answer. And when it comes to, I think I'd love to get a little bit more into Rawvolution itself, because you've got a question which I'm just going to jump sort of down to of what percentage of the market do you picture you're going to capture. And I think it would be great to really kind of talk to what you see in the future. I've got a dog, and obviously, as everybody who has a dog goes through the research that it takes to make sure that you're feeding your dog the best diet. There's a lot of people who say give them the kibble that kind of has everything, and there's a lot of people who say the raw food is really the way to go. A lot of vets say both are right, but then a lot of people are adamant that they're right in their in the aspect of the route that they're choosing to feed their dog. But it really does seem to me like there's an awful lot of people who are transitioning away from just the dry kibble and really feeding their pet dogs raw food. So I'd love to, while you sort of answer that question, really kind of talk to the trends that you see in the industry and where you see that future going.
Yeah, so I do a lot of research. I try to go to Global Pet Expo and Super Zoo Pet Expo in the States every year just to see the trends. And from 2018, we have seen a massive trend in freeze dry food, whereas Australia takes a little bit to catch up, but we do eventually catch up. So while freeze drying raw food is like in the States, it's just the thing to go to, or they're raw feeding. There's not many companies in Australia that currently do it. And one of the companies, which is the market leader, is actually a New Zealand company that just got acquired by Chinese investors. So we're trying to really make our mark and be a little bit different with our freeze drying. We're leaving the food whole, whereas some other companies have extruded it, so it's not recognizable what the dog is eating. So basically with our like our food, you're literally adding water, and you can go, oh, there's a little bit of kangaroo or pumpkin or like liver. You can see what you're feeding.
You can see the piece of blueberry. You can see the piece of pumpkin. It's not mashed together in a paper mixture. So like the trend, it's massive trend in the States, and it's only going to get bigger for here. And it's also convenient. It's convenient for people that don't want to like handle all this raw food, or they're time poor, but they really want to feed their dog a raw diet. They're literally grabbing something off the shelf and they're adding water to it, and it's retaining all its nutrients. And because one of the consultants that we work with as well as a pet nutritionist, you know that your pet is getting that right balance. Whereas if people are DIYing, unless you know what you're doing, I guess, if you're just feeding them a bit of chicken with a bit of this and a bit of vegetable and a bit of fruit, you don't quite know the percentages and the balance as well. So because we are working with a pet nutritionist, we're able to identify those to make sure that all the nutrients that we are delivering is species appropriate.
It's meal kits for dogs.
Yes, essentially.
That's awesome. And will you be sourcing the food to, where will you be sourcing the food rather to make the products?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things for me is everything that we produce is human grade. So I don't know if you're all familiar with, a couple of years ago, there was, and also the pet food industry in Australia is unregulated. There's no national regulation. We're all governed by our state bodies. So for us, it's Prime Safe, but it's the same standard that butchers are working towards. So really, I could be throwing anything together and it might not be balanced, but I'm not held at some sort of like national standard. So it was really important for me to have everything human grade, because a few years ago there was a
Horse meat?
Yeah, so there was a company that was it was from a knackery, so it wasn't human grade pet mince, and people were buying what they thought was beef and it was horse meat. But what was happening was the horses were grazing on this, it was like a yucca plant that was like really toxic to dogs. So when the humans got home, they thought they were feeding their dogs beef, and unfortunately 11 dogs died because from poisoning. So this is why when I source my ingredients, it is sourced from export grade facilities. Currently, we work very closely with Love a Duck for our duck meat. We work with meat wholesalers, Naturally Game Meats, where all of that meat comes from an export grade meat facility. So they are like highest, and that's why our price point is a bit higher, but you know that like what your dog is eating is essentially what you're eating. So all of our fruit and veg is locally sourced. We use the meat wholesaler across the road from us in Bendigo, like Central Vic Meats, to get like our lamb livers and that sort of stuff. So we're also sourcing locally to put it back. So keeping everything in Australia, manufacturing in Australia, and making sure our farmers are getting paid a decent price for their product.
Yeah. It might be a great time to talk about the nose to tail side of the business as well.
And that's another thing. Like we are like, if just say for a cow, we are using absolutely everything we can. So you might go on our website and be like, oh my God, there is some like really crazy looking treats on there, like cow faces with fur and ears with fur, but really nutritious for your pets, especially treats with fur. But also these parts of the animal would generally end up in landfill if we weren't taking it and making it into dog treats.
So it's the waste out of the human supply chain that we're able to repurpose as well.
Yeah,
that's great. That's great. And how are you exporting? Do you have relationships with international retailers, or are you using distributors overseas?
Distributors, bit of both. At this stage, our current we received strong inquiry actually through our website from a number of different countries. Specifically this year, we've received inquiries from about 5 or 6 different countries. However, with our supply constraints, we've been knocking back a few as well. We've been limiting our growth. Our growth has been limited due to what we can supply, and the amount of stock that we can safely carry in our Thomastown facility. Which, if you walk in, like when our big deliveries come in, like there are pallets everywhere. So we need to be quite careful as well from a health and safety point of view, not to overstock, and make sure that we have enough space. And one of the things with exporting is you're doing volume, which is where the next stage of our growth is.
Yeah, fantastic. It's a nice problem to have that you're at that rate. So
it's a challenge, but it's a challenge that obviously if you've got the demand.
But it's important to not drop your standards to meet the demands, just because and that's really important, and clearly clearly something that you uphold in your business, which is great. You've had a question here which I'm always seeing in webinars, so asking what your exit strategy is and what time horizon are you working towards for this. I think really just kind of prefacing this one, it's really important to know when you're investing into an early stage startup, it is a private company, and so you can't easily go on and sell your shares in the company at any point in time. That's sort of predetermined because of the fact that it's a private company. The company is effectively raising the funds to go on and grow, so they're going to spend those funds, of course, to hopefully go on and grow the business. When it comes to a private company, though, your options are sort of any of, or but not limited to, a trade sale with a massive corporate coming in and purchasing the company, a share buyback where the founders of the business might buy back some shares from some of the original investors, issuing dividends, or actually going public with an IPO. So like those are the potential options, but of course, like this round is really purely just to race as fast as possible towards the business's growth objectives. But I'll hand over to Mel and Tricia to answer that one in a bit more detail.
So yeah, obviously, we do have an exit strategy in mind. It's a long-term one. There is so much more that I want to achieve with Laila and me. So we would be looking at about a 5 to 10 year exit strategy where we would sell the business and then focus on Rawvolution or something else to do with like pets, because the passion. I have my love for dogs. I know that I could start another business that would tweak my interest and I could give it 100%.
But at this point in time, all our energy at the moment is devoted on building the Laila and me business and building the Rawvolution business as well. Yeah, and both an investment all our attendees today, your investment today into Laila and me is actually into our parent company being Freeze-Dried Manufacturing Australia, which when we say Laila and me and Rawvolution, it's the same entity.
No, of course. Okay, absolutely. That's great to clarify. You've had a question here as well around what your thoughts are on competitors in this area. I think that's probably in relation to the Rawvolution company. There are existing niche Australian brands doing something similar already, and then of course you have commercial pet food brands. So
well, absolutely. When I started this like 7 years ago, it wasn't nearly as many competitors at the moment. To be honest, for me, I can't focus on my competitors because I wouldn't be doing 100% on my own great job. But also, like, I work with some of my competitors and we collaborate because we've all got the common goal on pet health and putting healthy treats on the table. So yes, there are competitors. We probably are in a saturated industry, but we do things differently and we are so transparent with everything we do. And I think that I've also created not just a brand, but this massive community. Like, you jump on my Instagram and it's so engaged, and like we get cute letters on our orders. So I think that is my point of difference, that like you look at Laila and me and we are really trusted. We're a trusted brand. We don't talk shit to our customers. Like I won't ever drop my standards. So I'm not ever going to go into pricing wars with my competitors because my customers are really educated in what they know they're going to get quality every time.
That's great. And how much freeze drying capacity will you have in Bendigo in terms of revenue generating capacity for the company, and how much will it cost in capital to build this capacity and bring it on stream?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and we touched on this before. It depends on what the investment ends up being, because that would depend on what we can do with the funds. So we might be changing strategy if we reach a higher level of investment versus a lower level of investment. We might start looking at, aside from dehydrating, increasing instead of freeze drying growth, we might look at our dehydration growth as well, so the air dried. We might look at growing different avenues, such as different treats from the nose to tail side, or potentially just through to the supplements side as well. So yes, although we are freeze drying treats is our number one selling product at the moment. We're quite seasonal as well in terms of our Christmas promotions. So yeah, depending on that, and depending on the capacity and depending on what we can actually do with the funds, will depend on I guess where that will go. And sorry, did you want to elaborate on anything else there, Mel?
So like Bendigo is at capacity at the moment. So that is another reason we are trying to consolidate our factories into one big factory. So manufacturing, product and dispatch, operations and marketing, like all of us will be together we'll all be cross-trained working in the same factory. So that's another reason that we are crowdfunding, because we are at capacity, like not only that physically with the space, but if we were to get more freeze dries in there, there's not enough power in that factory to put another freeze dryer in there at the moment.
Yeah. Fantastic. And Michael here has asked, how are you managing inflationary factors to avoid pricing your products out of the market? I'm sure this is probably on your mind all the time.
Well, that is like, there is some products that we educate our customers on, hey, like you might go to the supermarket and notice that your beef is really expensive. We are having the same issue because we're obviously buying human grade meat. So unfortunately, some things we have had to give our customers plenty of time and then put it on long-term out of stock while our pricing stabilizes. So beef, one thing where we said buy up because we probably can't be producing this for much longer. And then I'm always checking in. I've got a great relationship with my meat wholesaler where I'll be like, he'll come to me and be like, hey, beef's at a good price. Do you want to grab it? I'm like, yep, send me a ton. So it's just really educating the customers again, because I don't want to be priced out of the market and I don't want to be selling a bag of dog treats for $40. We are just putting it on draft, sitting it in the background, and when it becomes available again, then we put it back online.
But to alternate our product offering as well. So as an example, where beef was unavailable, then we're just pumping up. We're telling the market that, hey, all of our marketing messages are all about, let's say, salmon bellies or chicken hearts or a different protein. So although we might have certain things in stock, such as turkey, for example, turkeys, the price has shot up due to Christmas. With many of course, during Christmas time, a lot of people buy turkey compared to the rest of the year. So during seasonal times, we might buy up the turkey a couple of months in advance in preparation for Christmas. And so that's some of the strategies that we will go through in terms of the pricing side of things.
Right. Fantastic. And are the meats hormone free and antibiotics free?
So we use all of our chicken ears. We use Ionica. We buy direct from Ionica chicken, so all hormone and free range chicken. And then the rest of it, like obviously kangaroo, it's it's free range. And the beef and lamb is all from the meat wholesaler. So some of that isn't grass fed, but we're very transparent on that. We will tell you if it is free range, and we will tell you if it's not necessarily pumped with a lot of hormones, because or like pet grade mince, because we're still buying it from really reliable sources. Yeah, fantastic. And even to the point we were on before, let me clarify, will all foods be sourced in Australia? Absolutely. We will. And the only thing that we don't is our New Zealand greenlip mussels. And there's like such great inflammation properties in New Zealand greenlip mussels that we made the exception there, but we're very clear, hey, with this from New Zealand, but everything else is Australian. It's 100% Australian. Even our packaging, like we are getting our packaging printed down the road, so we try and use like local, not just the meat, but local where we can with everything else in our business, because we are all for Australian manufacturing.
Important. That's fantastic. Carolyn has asked if we'll get a copy of the webinar. Yes, you absolutely will. I'll send it around tomorrow when it's been just trimmed at the beginning, and you'll have a copy of the recording, so that is no problem at all. We'll send it over. What sustainability and net zero pressures are there in the industry, and how are you sort of planning to address these?
Sustainability is so huge, and again, like we have moved all of our foil lined bags to recycled plastic and soft plastics. And it's something like, also we send it out in either satchels or cardboard boxes that can be recycled, because again, I would be absolutely mortified if like Laila and me bags ended up in the ocean and weren't like, you know, just killing our planet. So again, that is something that we're really focused on. We send out our dental treats in like cornstarch bags, so wrap it in tissue paper where we can. Our customers really want sustainable measures, and they want to know what we're doing about it. So again, and another thing with sustainability is our offcuts, that we're using the whole animal and we're dehydrating it.
Limiting waste from the human supply chain.
Limiting waste from the human supply chain when we can. So huge sustainability focus, and that's something that we are focused on.
And we've been we did receive a nomination for the award for
the Clean and Conscious Award, again, around our sustainability for our salmon bellies, because again, it's the offcut from the salmon that you would buy. We buy it from Tassel. So again, we're like, no, we're going to take those and freeze dry them into a nutritious dog treat rather than ending up in landfill. So yeah,
awesome. No, that's great. I'm sure there's even other areas that you've been thinking about that, I mean, these suppliers, they're going to just chuck it out anyway. So
we'll grab it and dehydrate it or freeze dry it. Yeah,
exactly. That's great to hear. Building up on the questions above about capacity, assuming you would get your goal, how much capacity do you think you would have as a business? I know you've answered this slightly already. I suppose you have sort of covered this, and again, the question below is kind of like, appreciate there are different scenarios with the minimum and maximum target. I guess it would be really good to sort of say what your ideal would be in terms of like what your main priorities are in terms of your use of funds, and to just work it down from that list.
Yeah, so the top goal was to get a freeze dry machine to be able to increase the amount that we're, I guess, manufacturing. The freeze dry machine we were looking at is about 1 ton in capacity. It means you put 1 ton of meat into that machine to get you back 250 kilos.
And that can run about three times a week.
Yes.
A run could be about 24 hours, depending on what you're freeze drying at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's great.
Yeah.
And the next question afterwards is kind of like in line with that. With recent budget shows power rates will increase by 50%. How much will this effectively cost you, and can you afford that sort of increased hike?
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing is that we're focusing on is renewable energy because of that, because freeze dryers do consume a lot of energy upon startup. It's like starting your car. It starts with all this power and then it kind of evens out. I suppose that freeze drying isn't cheap. That's why freeze drying dog food is a bit of a higher price point. But then I suppose you look at the flow and effect on that you've just created like a shelf stable product that can last for 20 years. Like freeze drying takes out so much moisture in a product that you could have a bag of dog food sitting there for 20 years, providing you like kept it in a dark place and no moisture's gotten to it. It will kind of pay for itself.
Correct. And it's not a new technology either. It's been recently newly applied to pet food, but the freeze drying technology has been around for many, many years. From it's the food that the astronauts eat when they're in outer space. It's the food that the military eat in terms of like ready-made meals and that sort of stuff. So obviously cooked food, like compared to the pet food being raw, but it does make it shelf stable. So I hope that answers that question.
Fantastic. Question here about what the plan for investment return is, i.e. dividend. We've already covered that one, so I'll just move down to the next one. So in terms of sustainability of the meat source, most emissions would be on the beef. I'm sure you're completely across this. So we'd love to understand where your beef is sourced from.
Where the beef is sourced from? It's sourced from naturally game meats in Queensland. And again, we don't use a lot of beef. We are more focused, especially with our pet food range that's coming. Our recipes are turkey and kangaroo. I think we've probably got 1 or 2 beef products that are long-term out of stock. So we haven't really been focusing on that. We've been focusing on the more sustainable cuts at the moment.
Totally. No, completely understand that. Somebody here has asked, Locke has asked, would you be open to working in with a pet grade processor, not human consumption in Victoria, that shares the same Prime Safe license as you? This would give you guaranteed supply of the following proteins to grow your business to the size that you need: beef, veal, kangaroo, venison, wild boar, rabbit, and goat.
Yes and no. No for our Australian customers, because I am hell bent on like human grade meat. But I would be open to that for our new markets, like when we export, and then I could change my messaging around pet grade meat. But from a from a fully licensed supplier.
Yeah, the traceability side would have to be very important to us, and we'd have to verify and of course ensure that the business that we're partnering with to be able to get this supply ticks the right boxes. But yeah, for the international market.
Yeah, fantastic. And Michael here has asked a question about projected revenue growth for the next 3 years and what depends on succeeding your revenue projections. So look, just to kind of answer this and clarify it, you won't necessarily find revenue projections in the offer document. ASIC's guide or ASIC's viewpoint on this for the CSF regime is a reasonable basis to provide forecasted revenue, and really that has to come from very significant track records of being able to do that kind of growth. It would be quite hard for Laila and me, because you've had quite a lot of significant growth with then your revenue, because of course businesses will have a lot of growth and then they'll sort of taper off, and then they'll sort of get to that 15 to 20% growth year on year. So it's probably best for Mel and Trisha to kind of really just talk about what they're planning on doing as a business and where they really see the business going, because you won't sort of see any projected revenue growth figures in the offer document when it's available.
Yeah, so next year, early next year, we're hoping to launch the Raw Coalition pet food. So the Facebook, Instagram, all that's already set up. The recipes are done. Everything's been tried and tested. So that's ready to launch. In addition to that, is exporting. Yeah, aside from selling more of what we're currently doing, it's all about selling new products as well. So where we found that the last 3 years the advent calendars have done really well, we're now looking for innovation into next year's Christmas products as well. Seasonally, Christmas has always been our busiest times of the year. And we'd be looking to develop new products in terms of that innovation, as well as the new products, such as, for example, the supplements, the wheat germ oil and the hemp seed oil. So we'd be looking to, expand on potentially other products in addition to increasing the sales on our current market, current best products.
Yeah, fantastic. And you've just got one final question here, and then I'd love to really cover some details on the upcoming offer and the fact that people can really find an awful lot of this information and more in the offer document, which will be released when the offer is live next week. But before we go into that, I'll ask this question from Hayley. Aria kangaroo, will this be combined with other meat? Will you have meat products without roux, as some dogs cannot eat or stomach the high protein?
Yeah, and we found that a lot, like chicken and kangaroo are like culprits. With our food, for example, the kangaroo is not single protein. It is mixed with lamb liver, because we found when we were trying to balance it, it was a lot better to balance it with different proteins. So that's why I was only going to start with just the kangaroo recipe, and then again, the feedback when we did the testing trials is like, my dog can't really tolerate this. The price point might be a little bit high. So then we created a second recipe, which is turkey-based, turkey and lamb. And again, that's a little bit lower with the price point, a bit more affordable, because we've used oats in there to, I'm not going to say fill it, because they've still got great digestive properties, but with the kangaroo recipe, it is literally meat a little bit of vegetables, so forth. With our treats, we've got a whole range. We don't just have kangaroo. We've got salmon, turkey, chicken, wild boar. Yeah, so we've got quite a range. We've got all the proteins covered because we do understand that some dogs can't tolerate some proteins.
Yeah, and the beauty about the treats, so I know this question was about the food, but the great thing about the treats is that they are single protein. So where Laila was having digestive issues, or sorry, with skin allergies, being able to do a elimination type diet as well was quite important.
Yeah.
So all of our treats are single protein.
Yeah.
I've been there with the elimination diet. You just have to track everything. So that's awesome to hear. And look, I think we've come up to perfect timing, really, where we've answered all the questions. And I really want to thank everybody who's participated and asked these great questions, and really just gone into so much depth into the business itself, but really wanting to share. And I'm sure almost everybody here has expressed interest to invest. But in order to be able to receive early access to the investment offer, which is going to be opening next week, and then go on and review the offer document, which will have all the information about the terms of the offer, the strategy of the company moving forward, and those use of funds, you will have to express interest to invest to actually then receive that early access. So when I provide you with the recording, I will provide you with a link so you can go ahead and check that out on the Birchal website for the Laila and Me campaign. So I'll hand over to you both quickly to say any final closing words.
Yeah, like I'm blown away by how much this business has grown and the journey that everybody has been on with me. So I'm so passionate about dogs and pet health and longevity of our dogs. So again, if anyone's got any other questions, you're more than welcome to hit me up, join our Facebook groups, look at our Instagram. You'll see the journey and the interaction. And I'm just so excited for the next growth phase of this journey. It's exceeded all of my expectations when I first started with my dog. So
and I guess I've been part of the business here with Mel now for 18 months, and definitely one of the fastest growing companies that I've been a part of. It has been a fantastic journey. We've had like any business, we've had our ups and we've had our downs, but we're very optimistic about the future, and really looking to bring everyone along this journey with us to be able to share the wins.
Fantastic. Well, look, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to you both. It's been such a pleasure doing this session with you. And thank you to everybody attending here today. We'll send you the recording and really cannot wait to open this investment offer next week for you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.